live stream from Dulcimer Crossing. I've got a 6-string long neck chromatic dulcimer at this moment. May 6th was my grandma's birthday. She was born in 1906, so this would be her 114th, I guess, not 104th. I put it wrong someplace. 114th birthday. Some people always looking for some trouble. Some people always want to run high. Some people always threaten about tomorrow. Some people always covering their backside. They's all got themselves created. They's all got themselves loved by the only one who is the only one deep enough to stand on either side and give a great big wrap around and take it all and keep them coming. Ever living, ever loving, ever listen on. Great big wrap around and take it all and keep them coming. Ever living, ever loving, ever listen on. So today, in honor of Grandma Nearig, that's a song I wrote many years ago. I've been reading Woody Guthrie's Bound for Glory and remembering that Grandma was someone who always signed the gift cards she gave, the birthday, the Christmas, the holiday, whatever card we got, it always was signed your ever-loving Grandma Nearig. And that ever-lovingness, the constant support, is what is behind our theme today. We want to set goals, and I want to turn this on here. Make sure that I can see the questions that are coming in. That are coming in on Facebook as well, so that we can answer. Good morning. I've got to type it there too. So today we're setting goals. And the supportive atmosphere of my grandma, who said, you know, always loving you, always here for you, is something that made a big difference in making it possible for me to do anything. When it comes time to playing music, we all start with the musical impulse in us, and I always tell people that I want to is the most important part, but sometimes we have a fleeting notion of something we want to do, and sometimes there's an enduring notion of what we want to do. The fleeting one is really hard to catch. It's like a breath or a whisper. The other one's the one that moves you in the innards. And how do we ride that wave? How do we chart our course in a strong current? How do we cut across the current sometimes? How do we go against the current to develop ourselves as musical people, as musicians, as players, as creators of music, is what we want to talk about today, setting goals for growth. And let me share my screen. So here's what I want. Setting goals for growth. What I was doing was looking through the Dulcimer Crossing blog. This is a feature of what we have at Dulcimer Crossing. There have been posts that have been made specifically for the blog. Some of them started out as newsletters that my partner in Dulcimer Crossing, Linda Ratcliffe, wrote. And I just want us to work through these today, take a look at what's there so that you can see that there are additional resources here for you. but also be thinking about how do I actually set the goals that I have, and how do I reach them? How do I grow in my musicianship? So the first one that I want to call attention to is from 2 years ago tomorrow. It got added to the blog. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Make a goal. Oh, darn it. I don't like these opening in Safari. I do not like that. So I'm going to open a new Chrome window because it doesn't look like the blog. One of the things Linda talked about doing here, it was making some changes in her life and where she was living, and that affected what she would have available to her for practicing. And so she talked about how to get better in practicing. She has some suggestions here: warming up exercise, jamming tunes, doing something new, just doing some free exploration, some old time favorites. I think her overall goal here was, I'm in a new place, I want to do a new thing in my life. And she used a journal to say, this is what I'm gonna, it's a tool to say, I'm gonna use this journal as a way of keeping track of what I want to do. And sometimes I found when I journal a lot, and sometimes what I found when I journal, the fact that I wrote it down means that I don't even need to think about it anymore. And it's not till I go back months later and reread, because I do that too. I'll just say, what was I thinking? What was going on? And I'll find it's like, oh, that was my goal. Turns out I did this and this and this in response to that goal that I completely forgot about. So sometimes just, this is the phrase people use a lot today. They'll say, we're putting it out there. I want to stop sharing my screen now because that's just getting a little bit weird. So just saying, marking, this is what I want to do, can make a big difference in what you actually do, because to make that, setting an intention is one way people talk about it. There is a side thing next to it though. Sometimes when we say something, that's all the energy we had, and we never do it because we said it. And we actually, there have been studies about this. People think, I have a big plan, and they say their big plan. They actually, in their brain, feel like they did it. So then they put no energy into actually making the plan come to fruition. So that's one of those tensions that we got to walk with a little bit. But I know that sometimes writing it down, this is what I'd like to do, gives me a touchstone so I can go back to it in the future and check and see, how did I do with that? Was that really, is that still my goal? Is that something I still want to do? What have I done? And my experience of working with groups of people when we do this as a group is, if we just say it out loud, after a year, about half of the things we talked about, we actually either completed or made significant progress on. Another 25% were just, yeah, the situation doesn't fit anymore. That was a nice idea, but they just kind of fall off the table. And the other 25%, it's either sitting still waiting, or it's moving forward, but at a much slower rate than the first half. And when I would do this, when I was a pastor of a church, we would do this visioning process and, look 1, 3, and 5 years into the future. And at the end of 1 year, half of what we wanted to do was done. At the end of 3 years, the rest that we hadn't done, that half, about half of it, we'd done. and we didn't necessarily go back and check in with it. We just set the goal. So sometimes just setting the goal is like, I want to kick my ball through those uprights when I wanted to be a football place kicker. That was my goal. I could evaluate all along the steps along the way, and I could be frustrated. I had one ball, and once I kicked it, I had to go run and get it and bring it back. And the one place I had to kick, I had two choices. It wasn't optimal. I could kick it and it would go into the street that was right behind in our town. That's where that wasn't the most fun. Or I could kick it the other way and then it would go down just on the edge of the field. There'd be this big hill and it'd go down into the gully. So it made it really hard to practice on all the things you have to do with the kicking motion because I was by myself and I had to keep chasing the ball. And it wasn't just like, I'm going to run over there and get the ball. It's like, I got to run over there and not get hit by the car and get the ball. I've got to run down the hill, get the ball, run back up. So we can say that's why I'm not a place kicker today. More likely it's because I injured my knees and I needed to land on the knee that got injured the worst. As my steadying, and then kick with the other one, not, that created, it took away the goal, the possibility of that one. Okay, so she talks about that and setting it. Let's see, I'm going to close a couple of things because I think I'm getting a CPU warning for my computer. So let's just not have everything open right now. I do not want you open. Okay. And I think I had my file open and I closed it somehow. Here it is. Yeah. Now, another thing that we often do in our lives, and as musicians too, and I'm going to put this here, links to these places in the blog. Is at the beginning of a new year, we often set goals. And, here we are, there's a lot has been changed in our world from January. I think I want to share my screen again so you can see this. There we go. So for New Year's is a time when we often take stock and say, well, I didn't get done last year what I wanted to do, or as a result of last year, I think I want to do this new thing. And so here are some things that Linda suggested for us in the newsletter from Dulcimer Crossing that are now in the blog. Establish a regular practice time. Maybe this is something that you don't have, or maybe you all decided with quarantine that you thought this is the perfect time to do this. I know in my private studio, I've had some new students as a result of making that decision. Expand your practice time by just a little, adding a little bit here and there, adding 10 minutes if you did 20, and if you did 30, add 15, and look for what happens there. Start taking some lessons or start again. And we've had a number of people join us at Dulcimer Crossing because they had the opportunity and they were frustrated with wherever they were. They weren't making the progress they wanted to. They may have already set up the expectations and they aren't quite there. Try out some new repertoire. One of the things I do in the hustle and bustle of my daily life and teaching preschool music and coming home for lessons and going out and performing a gig is that I forget that I have all these resources that are on my shelf. And then when I feel a little bored with what I'm playing, and I forget I have those resources, I sit and look at the wall. In a time where everything gets kind of upset, like the apple cart, I'm just like, oh, look at this. I have these Scottish tunes I haven't worked all the way through yet. And then I keep little check marks and things on them so that I have a little system that I use. Check mark to say I played this one, an exclamation point if it was, got my attention, yeah, and a big star if I love it. And then I can go back through later when I'm not, culling through looking for the tunes to get my attention. Like, yeah, I remember that one got my attention. I really want to do that. And that's the exploring of new repertoire. And then playing with some other people. Of course, this is more difficult right now with the COVID-19, but people are finding ingenious ways to share music with each other. On the East Coast, there is a session that happens on Saturdays, a mountain dulcimer session that what I've been reading in the reports, there's generally around 97 people that come to that on Zoom. And you have to sign up beforehand to get in. It's a popular thing. Some different people are sharing leadership and people take turns playing. The Berkeley Dulcimer Gathering that I conduct, it's got 10 people in it. And we live all over the Bay Area, way up north in Marin, in the East Bay, all the way over to Livermore and in the peninsula. So we kind of covered all of San Francisco Bay. We can't come together. And we've been rehearsing because this is tradition. This is our spring season. This is traditionally when we're rehearsing regularly so that we can play for the Berkeley Dulcimer Gathering, which is coming up next week, and then have our spring recital in early June. Well, we don't know what's going to happen about the spring recital yet, but we're still using Zoom as a way of gathering us and being able to see each other, aiming our cameras at our this is a mountain dulcimer orchestra, aiming our cameras at our dulcimers so that I as a conductor can watch, and then we check in, we play along with the track that has all the parts in it. So it's like we've tried where I play and everybody plays with me. I'm not always playing the melody. Sometimes I'm playing the bass or part 3 or something like that. And that can make it more challenging. So the last week I played the track that I've recorded that has all the parts on it, so everybody could hear all the parts as they were playing along. And they said that actually was much better for them. So that's one way that we're playing together. We don't have the exact same experience we had before, but we do have the chance to make some connection. So we're reaching out in this goal that she talked about. So I think, kudos, Linda. That's from January 2nd. That's a good one. Another good one. That was from last year. Now here's a completely different one. I'm going to share my screen again. There we go. Winning at Winfield. Winfield, the Walnut Valley Festival at Winfield. Winfield, Kansas. Trying to get to the chat here. Is an annual fall festival. That is also the host of the National Mountain and Hammer Dulcimer Festivals. And for years, that was a pilgrimage place for me. And I competed in the contests many, many times. And I'm going to show you, there's some, I think I'll stop sharing so you can see this. Look up there. You're seeing my fun office. As you can see, there's a bunch of the trophies I won from Winfield up there. I never did win the top prize. I got a lot of seconds and a lot of thirds and some hammer dulcimer rodeo belt buckles. That's what we call them. the plaque for the people who come in tying for fourth. But winning at Winfield, it turns out I discovered was more than coming home with a prize, because I competed many, many years, and I don't have prizes for every year I competed, but I participated. And I remember Butch Ross was writing an article for the Dulcimer Players News many years ago and asked several of us to describe our experiences at Winfield. There are many people in the Dulcimer world that feel competition just a bad thing. Competition and Dulcimers don't go together. It should be cooperation. And I've been in part of those conversations where we're either late night or early morning, we're over a steaming hot or a cold beverage having these conversations. But for me, for doing this at Winfield was a way for me to prepare something for the largest appreciative audience of what I did. Because I don't know if your experience is like mine, but when you're a Dulcimer player, you end up being an ambassador. There's a lot of people who say, what is that thing? How do you play it? Where did it come from? Is there music for it? And I just got done playing for a half an hour. I think there's music. I just played it. But what they mean is, do people actually write for this? And there's just all kinds of things. And so as I reflected on that, that's what this blog post is, Winning at Winfield, which is in the Dulcimer Crossing blog. I discovered there were several ways of winning. And they didn't all involve coming home with a trophy, although I did get to do that too. So this isn't a sour grape story. I was very blessed to be able to come home with a trophy. But I realized that, let me tell you one story. I was so into the tune. It was after the Battle of Aughrim, which is an Irish tune commemorating the battle after which the English were in control of Ireland. And so it's one of those really poignant, awful times in history. And the tune is an air, an Irish minor air, and it really reflects the feeling of what the title is about. And it had some challenges for me in my mountain dulcimer. And so I'm into it. I'm really deep into it, more than I had been ever before. It's like I had traveled through my dulcimer onto the moor in the peat bog to Ireland, to Aughrim. And all of a sudden I heard this cough. Somebody over here somewhere coughed really loud, and it shook me. And I looked up and I shuddered. I felt it in my body. And then after about 1,000 years, I said, what song am I playing? Another 1,000 passed. And I said, what is this thing on my lap? And another 1,000 years passed. And I said, where am I in the song? And I finished and got done. That was not a year that I won any prizes. But my one buddy said to me, and this was the prize from that year, he says, I've never seen you so nervous. And I said, I didn't think I was nervous. I was startled. But his observation is, you've played for church and for people all the time. And I realized that in those settings, it was not for approval. It was in service of something larger. And it was excellence in service rather than excellence in execution. And turns out for most of my life, I've had a struggle with the excellence in execution thing. But the excellence in service, that's old hat. I could do that. So I tucked that away. I learned that little nugget, and I came home and I decided that I was going to, hey, Vi, how are you? But what I needed to do was use the mindset that I was already comfortable and familiar with, which is music and service, and live in that space as I sat on the stage of the Walnut Valley Festival. And what that helped to do for me was I got very much more comfortable playing in the contest setting. I also had spent time fearing the audience, they're all looking at me. Well, yeah, I'm on the stage and they're all faced in my direction, but I would keep my head down and try to focus on the music and ignore the audience. And I discovered that as I did that, my eyes were like looking through the top of my head at the whole audience, trying to imagine who was where. And I was imagining the reactions. There was all this internal conversation going on. It's a complete distraction from what I was trying to do. But so one year I decided I'm going to just try something new. I'm going to do something different. This time when I come out on the stage, because I didn't win the year before either, I come out on the stage, I'm going to look up and smile at all the people, and I'm going to pretend I'm happy that I'm here, and I'm going to pretend I'm happy they're here. And in the midst of my pretending, do you know what happened? I became happy because I looked out and I saw the faces of all these friends smiling at me. It's like, oh, there's Esther. There's Jim and Jeff and Jim. Oh, there's Aaron May. There's my friends are here. Oh, that's not a crowd. That's a company of friends. And, you know, that changed my experience. And I got over that hurdle because I moved into the space where I was comfortable. And it reoriented everything in me. And I changed one thing. I'm going to look up instead. And that felt like instead of all those against me, we were all together in this space. Now, Esther Creek, my Dulce mentor, had always said for years, she didn't think the purpose of the contest was about winning a prize. She figured it was an opportunity to share the music with the people. So she tried to do that. I'm going to play this music. I'm going to try to play it beautifully and share it with the people. And when I adopted that, and the fact that I'm going to look and see which friends are here into my preparation, it made a huge difference. And I realized as I conclude in this article, yes, exactly, friends make it all better. As I concluded in this article, let me go back and share that so you can see it again. Every time I came home from Winfield, I came home a winner. And there were times when I got done playing and I played as best as I could. And I didn't get a prize. There were other times I played as best as I could and I did get a prize. And the reality is the prize is the bonus. Playing the best I could is what I really valued the most. It's what I treasured the most. Doing the best I could. And sometimes I did really awful. Or that was what I told myself. I made one little slip up and I called it awful. And I remember the one year sitting around afterwards with my friend, Jim Pierce, and I'm saying I wish the earth had just opened up and swallowed me down because I was so bad. My hammers got all stuck up in the first year I competed in the hammer contest, and there was this gap of, a millennia that was waiting for the next sound to hit. And Jim just grinned and said, well, you didn't play your best. I've heard you play better. And at the same time, it was like, there was the confirmation of, yeah, that was accurate. Your description was accurate. You didn't play your best. But that means he also had heard better, which means I have it in me. So the friends thing is really important, like Maya is saying. It's fun reliving those memories. Okay. Let's take a look at this one. And if you'd like to have today's handout, just write me at steve@dulcimercrossing.com. And I can send you the list of these blog posts. So this one, Linda wrote, called "You Are What You Practice." She was good fun in these cartoons. Don't forget, you are what you eat. And the guy says, I need to eat a skinny person so I can feed the skinny person. But using our diet, which is something we work with a lot or don't pay attention to, as a way to focus on what am I doing? Because what I'm going to perform is what I practice. And I encourage people to practice, and then trust your practice. if what you're doing is something that if it's time to share what you're going to share with people, my goal for my rehearsal before it's time to share is to put myself in that space as often as possible, the mental headspace. So as a hammer dulcimer player, I've been able to play a lot of Malcolm Dalglish's arrangements for hammer dulcimer in chorus of, their children's choruses, mixed choruses, high school, junior high, very interesting, very hammer dulcimer centric accompaniments. When I show up, the piano player almost always says, "Oh, I'm so glad you're here," because hammer dulcimers have more than one place to play the exact same pitch, and when you're trying to play that kind of accompaniment on the piano, you have to use the same finger and two different fingers in the same key a bunch of times, and it's a challenge. But these are often pieces of music that are way different than what I normally play. So, conductor will ask me if I'm interested in doing this. I'll ask to see the music. I'll take a look at it. I'll listen to it if there's a recording of this accompaniment happening so I can see how it all goes together. Because when I'm playing my part by myself, it will not sound like the piece of music I thought it was. Rire la Bouche is a French-Canadian tune that John McCutcheon plays. And I learned playing it from him. I like that tune, yeah. So Malcolm wrote this piece for the chorus to sing. What I didn't know is da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, is the chorus is going to sing all the melody that I already knew. My part was going to have nothing to play like that. So I'm looking at it, like, this does not sound like this tune. And then that's when I first understood, oh, Malcolm really understands a hammer dulcimer. He's writing for a hammer dulcimer to be played like a hammer dulcimer and provide choral accompaniment. So, okay, I got to learn this. Now I've got to learn it. I've got to memorize it because it's a 21-page score, and I got two hammers in my hands. I can't turn the page. What am I going to do? If I'm going to be able to do this, I either have to copy it so that I can see the whole thing at once and put it at a place where I'm not doing this with my head and getting dizzy. So I usually put it to the side of my hammer dulcimer and then listen to the recording and watch and have it go through and then play. And then once I've learned the piece, the next thing that happens is I have to play it with the choir live. And they want me to come to a rehearsal or two beforehand because the choir has to get used to what it sounds like with a hammer dulcimer and not with a piano. And I have to be prepared before the first rehearsal so that I'm comfortable enough playing it that it doesn't distract the choir from doing what they need to do and doesn't distract the conductor as the conductor is trying to conduct the choir. So what I do is I put myself mentally in my studio. I'm in my studio, but I walk into the rehearsal room in my head. I set up my dulcimer and I play the piece. And then I put it down and I walk away. Now, physically, I'll do the walking part, but I have to imagine that I'm in the rehearsal space and imagine all the distractions that can come, so that when I get there, it's not my first time with all that. If I've never been to this school or this performance space, there are going to be some change. Well, okay, that's not the way I imagined it. But I did the imagining, so I didn't have to worry about the fact that I'm going to have to deal with something like that. If you have any questions, you can type them in the chat, or you can type them in the live stream, or you can type them in the Facebook chat. Having a goal at the end of where we are headed is another one that Linda talked about, the finish line. And her conclusion, a lot of us, this is really cool. A lot of us say we just want to get there. We want it to be done. I saw a cartoon that said Can we skip the I suck part and just get to I'm great part? Well, there's only one way to do that, and that's to go through it. But here's the key thing that she says. Can you make a playlist of songs you'll be performed and stop there? Is there a finish line for your playing? No. You will never reach the finish line with your music. Pete Seeger, whose birthday was past Sunday, said to his grandson, "So you want to be a musician? Well, then prepare to have a life in you're never completely satisfied." And that's wisdom, because the reality of music is that we're always. I have a friend who would say, pursuing this goal. We're pursuing it, and there are moments when the pursuit feels like it's getting nowhere. It's not going far enough. It's not going fast enough. Or we're running the race, and there's the red herring comes across the path, and we're the cat who follows the fish instead of continuing on the race. But there's a way in which with music we get glimpses, and there are times when it all washes over us. But a lot of times I experience is everything I do helps me see the more I want, the further goal I want to reach. So this is a challenge, I think, for a lot of us, because we don't want to just be frustrated. We have enough in our lives that frustrates us. How do we aim and accept the reality and adjust the aim until the reality adjusts? That sounds a little woo-woo and zen-y, I guess. But having some clarity about what I want. What is it I want? I want to make my life in music. I want to make my living from music. I want to play for my grandchildren. I want to be able to play this tone and just have my body echo with that tone. I want to be able to play fast and clean. I want to be able to play fluidly. I want to know where my notes are. I want to be able to hear a song on the radio. He's quaint, isn't he? On my Spotify. I want to hear a song on Spotify and play it on my instrument. I want to be able to move it so that I can sing it in a place that feels comfortable for me. These are all goals that I have. And they're goals that I'm achieving various bits of progress on them. I'm sorry, I just saw your comment, Jim. I want to find an instrument I'm good at. Then I'll practice. I love that. That's a bumper sticker and a t-shirt, I think. But to just circle back around to where I started today for my grandma's birthday is knowing that what I'm doing is all caught up in this supportive web. It comes as people, it comes as the musical tones themselves. They're just waiting to be plucked. They're waiting to be struck. Now that takes me to African drumming, where the African drummers will say that the rhythms exist eternally. It's my job to create the conditions so they can come and inhabit me. I want to tap in. It's like there's a river that's always flowing, and I want to reach up and plug my plug into it so that they can come over here for a while. I think that's, for me, the setting goals for growth. And what I wanted to do today was show you the resources in the Dulcimer Crossing blog that focus on this. And I also want to show you how you can find the theme that you might be looking for if it is not this theme. So let me share one more time. In the Dulcimer Crossing blog, if you just click on the blog, you're going to go to the most recent post that we have, which is taking a look at the announcement for an earlier live stream. On the right side, there are the categories that you can sort everything in the blog by your instrument, the one that you're good at. But there's a little search bar here where I can search and say tuning. And it's going to bring up all the posts that have been tagged with anything to do with tuning. So you can search for things by theme. You can say, I really want to know Robert Force. Well, it says his video needs a change in the setting. But here's the things that Robert has on our site, for example. How about Don Petty? Oh, there he's featured an article. There's introduction. He's going to be doing one of our Leap Forward classes. So this is a way for you to search and find what's available in the blog that might answer the question you've been carrying with you. And once again, if you'd like the handout that has the links to these particular pieces in the blog, send me an email at steve@dulcimercrossing.com and I'll send you today's handout. And if you have topics that you would like to cover in the future, in the Wednesday live stream, please let us know. You can send a question to Steve@DulcimerCrossing or Linda@DulcimerCrossing.com. Excuse me. I also want to remind you that our Leap Forward class, this is on the homepage of Dulcimer Crossing. I'm going to share that now, where you can see the stream happening right here. But our Leap Forward class is tomorrow at these times with Stephen Humphreys. And he's going to be talking about specifically understanding rhythm. So you can join us. It's 4 p.m. Pacific, etc. across. This is for premium members of Dulcimer Crossing. And he'll have a nice class for us. This is part of our Leap Forward in Your Musical Understanding Music Theory in 2020, in a leap year. And then we have these upcoming events. The Berkeley Dulcimer Gathering is not this weekend, but the following weekend. And we're seeing registrations still come in. They can come in until a week from yesterday. The deadline for registration is the 12th. And registration just opened for the Quarantine Dulcimer Festival, and a lot of classes got filled up, but there's still a lot open. So this is going to take place on June 5th, 6th, and 7th, actually, with the concerts on Friday, Saturday night, and Sunday during the day. And as always at Dulcimer Crossing, we have our lessons here for you. So I'm going to stop sharing and thank you for being here today. Hey, Doug. Enjoy the replay. So I'm going to head out right now. Let me know topics you want to address in the future. And I'll plan to see you again next week, same time. Cheers.